Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're here today on our Motivation and Mindset Monday. The best way to start the week is with a little bit of inspiration. So maybe right now, at this moment, you have your goals already written down for the week. Maybe you understand what your quarter looks like and the overall theme of your year. If you have that, you're so far ahead of the game. If you're not quite there yet, that's okay. You can also go back, check out a previous show on how to create your own 12-week year. So my goal, though, for you today is no matter where you are in that process of setting goals and achieving goals is to understand that if you can master just a certain set of skills, you are going to go really far in life. And honestly, it doesn't matter the age. If you're learning this in your teenage years, fantastic. Again, you're well ahead of the game. If you're learning this in your 50s and 60s, that's okay too, because you're going to be able to use that for the next 30 years of your life, 40 years of your life. Because remember, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're looking at your lab numbers, if you're keeping yourself healthy, we as a human species can live well into our 80s and 90s, really with no problem at all. We can do that if we're taking care of this vessel, this body. So, and I do expect in the next 20 years to 30 years, I'll be talking more about this, we're going to have people living to 100 and beyond pretty routinely. So today is really understanding no matter what your goal, whether it be your health or body transformation, two great places to start because both of them will help you live longer. What about your career, your relationships, your spirituality, you name it, try to drop it into those buckets, see what your top one or two goals are, and then make sure you're using these 5 life skills that I'm going to talk about right now that everyone should master because no matter the goal, they're going to make you that much better. And they're going to make goal achieving that much easier. That's the truth. So without further ado, let's dive into these 5 life skills that I've really put together. I've learned a lot of life skills from reading a lot of different books, listening to a lot of different audio, and testing them out in life. And what I can tell you is that some are great, but there are those that they will last a lifetime and they are almost entwined with humans, with living, that these are the ones that you have to live by. Because if you don't, it's going to catch up with you eventually. So that's why I really try to narrow it down from maybe a dozen great ones to just 5, that if you can get these 5 down, well, again, like I said, there's no goal too big for you. So the first one is this, it's managing your time. And sure, I've mentioned this before, there's no doubt about it. I really believe that if you are not managing your time, if you're not essentially planning your day, your tomorrow the night before, you're already behind, right? So if you know your quarter and you know your months and you know your weeks, and then you can plan your days, you're going to get at least twice as much done as your average person. And again, we don't need to compare ourselves to anyone, but we can say that we're going to get twice as much work done ourselves as we would previously. And the reason is we wake up to a game plan. So there's just less time on social media. There's less time wasted. There's less time doing things that aren't going to be really progressive for you to move towards your goals. So by managing your time, you're just going, again, like I said, get twice as much done in a year. So in 10 years, you got 20 years of work done. That's not uncommon. I mean, it's really not. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination, I've done a few shows now that show you what you can do in just a half hour a day, right? But what if you could take whatever you're doing in a day and get twice as much done? And I really believe that you can do that. And it all starts with just keeping a simple calendar. I use an iPhone and I use iCal, and all of my days are broken up into basically time blocks. And the blocks that I use are typically in 15-minute increments. So it's basically 15 or 30-minute blocks, 45-minute blocks, and then hour-long blocks, and you can just stack them together. Now, I do this work-wise, but I also do it to say, okay, this is my exercise time. This is when I'm, headed home, because that's about 15 minutes or so. And this is when I'm having my time with my girls, right, at night. Like, this is like all of the different time blocks are in there so that everything gets done, because so many people complain that there's not enough time, there's not enough time, there's not enough time. I get it. I understand. I'd like a little bit more time, but we all get the same 24 hours. And if you're busy with whatever your day job is, taking care of the world, taking care of your family, taking care of your work, whatever it might be, again, we're all super busy. But if we look at what are we doing from when we're waking to when we start that work, or what are we doing after work, or what are we doing at our lunchtime, I'm telling you right now, there is time enough. You'll be able to find an hour a day to do whatever you need to do, even outside your work hours, to dramatically move your life forward. So one last thing I want to add to this is that in the beginning, your body, your mind is just not going to be ready to really stack your day with all of these things back to back to back. It just takes a lot of mental bandwidth. But it's just like anything else, like exercise. Over time, your body gets stronger. Your mind gets stronger. You can deal with more. So for now, again, don't go overboard. Just begin to manage your schedule to a better degree. All right, number 2 is this: positive self-talk. When I have a conversation with someone, and I have a lot of conversations, that's a big part of my job, I already know what they are able to handle in their life by their self-talk. Now, self-talk is basically what you say to yourself. But in a conversation, I can hear the words saying, I don't know if I can do that. I don't think that that's for me. I don't know if I'm that type of person. Nobody in my family has really been able to do that. It's not really what we do in my circle of friends. When I hear these things, I hear all of the defeatism coming through them, and I don't even really believe it's them. They've taken on the voice of the collective, whether it be their family, how they grew up, their culture, their community, whatever it is, they've taken on that. And we have to understand is that's not necessarily us. We've adopted it as essentially a protective mechanism growing up because that allowed us to stay a part of the tribe. But as you grow older, you get to make new decisions. And if you feel like your talk is defeating you and holding you back from even really getting started, it's time to begin to change that self-talk. How do you do it? You listen to the voice in your head. So if you're not even speaking these words out loud, I'm someone that talks out loud to myself quite often. It's easier nowadays because people could just think, oh, you're on a wireless headset or whatever. But back in the day, when I'm walking down the street talking to myself, it would be a little bit different. But now it's totally fine, which is great. So for everybody else, though, let's say the voice stays in your head and you don't actually speak it out loud. What you want to do is you want to catch the things that you're saying that you're not good enough in some way, or you can't. If you can begin to check those things, literally check them and just say, no, that's the old me. That's not me. That's the collective talking. Here's the new me. And you just literally start to talk it out with yourself and tell yourself who you really are and who you want to become. Again, it's going to be game changing because we can only really achieve what we believe. And you might say to yourself, I really want that house. I really want that car. I really want that career. I really want that relationship, and on and on and on, right? You can say all of those things. But if you don't believe it, well, the subconscious is not going to allow you to achieve it, right? And if you do, it's not going to last. So work on the self-talk. Number 3 is this: no complaining. I know we all like to complain, and I do it too sometimes. There's no doubt about it. Big things, major things in life, I get it. These things happen. It is part of the human experience. Don't let that complaining transition then into the next day. If you have to complain, okay, there's one day for complaining, move on. It's time to move on. It doesn't mean that you can change your present circumstance. But if you don't like your job and you complain about your job every single day, that is undue stress in your body and your nervous system, right? In your mind. So what do we need to do? You can be honest with yourself. You can say, I don't like my job. You could say that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not complaining. You are stating the fact you don't like your job, but there's no emotion attached to it. And you don't have to go around telling the world you don't like your job. Okay. You don't like your job. What's the next step? Okay. You are going to look for other jobs. You are going to study for that next level of certification, education, whatever it is that would then allow you to get that next job. And maybe that study takes place before work or after work or a little bit during lunch. Like whatever it is, you're going to make it happen. So you're going to take your fuel, your fire from what you don't like. And this is a great way. This is how a lot of people change. I didn't like being sick. I really disliked being sick. So what did I do? Well, I would try new things. I would start to feel better, and then I would relapse, and I would get really discouraged, and I would complain. I'm trying so hard. I'm doing so many different things. I'm seeing so many different practitioners. I'm spending so much money on all these different supplements, and I'm still relapsing. What's going on? And I would just get mad. I would say, okay, I'm gonna try this next thing. So use the fire, the fuel for what you don't like, what you're complaining about, to then move into the next. Use it as energy, right? Because it's going to burn you out if not. So take that and then, as they say, transmute it into energy for what you do want. Number 4 is this: be consistent. This is my favorite one. There's no doubt about it. And that's because I might not be the best at anything. Literally. But if you give me enough time, I'm going to rise to the top of whatever those things are. And you might say, well, that's egotistical to say that. And I get it. I'm not saying I'm going to be the best at any of these things. But what I'm saying is, with enough time, if I really care about it, I'm going to read. I'm going to get educated on it. I'm going to put it into practice. I'm going to take consistent effort. And I'm going to graduate to the point where I'm proficient at it. And I believe anybody can do that. A really good case in point is that I first got into archery when I was in Australia, literally 30 days before the whole pandemic broke out. And I knew I would love archery. It's one of the reasons why I never let myself do it before, because I kind of get hooked on these things. But then I realized, oh, my daughters enjoyed archery when we were doing it together as a family. And here's the thing. When we got back, we ended up staying in Maine during the pandemic, and I bought my daughters an archery set each. And we had a target, and we just practiced. It was a lot of fun. Well, what happened was at 8 o'clock at night, after I put them to bed, helped clean up the house and all that, I'd be down there for a half hour using the little bow, practicing. And you know what? I was terrible at archery, meaning like I was 10 yards to 15 yards away with a kid's bow, not hitting the target, like not proficient, not good. So what did I do? I learned more about it. I watched some videos. I started to get a sight on it, use a little what's called a peep, and use the different the sights basically to measure out what it is. And within about 3 months, I was hitting that bullseye. Now, was I perfect? By no means, because then once you get good, what do? You move back a little further. And then all of a sudden, you're starting again. And then I eventually graduated. I got an adult bow, and I absolutely loved it. But here's the thing. You just have to give yourself enough time. That's it. But you have to be consistent. I was literally doing it 5 days a week, out there for a half hour, shooting about 50 different, arrows at a target. And I went from really bad to not so bad, to okay, to then passable, to then pretty good, to then within 40 yards to actually hitting the target and being pretty good. The best archer? No, I'm not making the Olympics, right? That's not happening. But to a point where now it's very enjoyable. I love it. And I could go out there with anybody and just have a good time and do some target practice. So what I'm saying to you is this: you can take that same mentality for anything and just put consistent effort in. Not once a week. If it's important to you, you're going to do it daily. If you need to transform your health, you're going to do it daily. If you need to transform your body, you're going to do it daily. There's no days off, right? There's no days off. You don't have to do your workout every day, but you're going to walk every day. You're going to eat well every day. It doesn't mean you can't have a flex meal once a week. You are, but you're going to keep doing it every day if it's important to you. Now, why do I mention this? Because it's great if you go all out on the weekends, but that's 2 days out of 7, right? You have a 168-hour a week. You can't just take 48 hours, right? And so what we really need to do is consistent efforts over time. It's better not to necessarily put a timeline, but just say, I'm going to achieve this and I'm going to work every day towards it. I love consistency. That's really what it's all about. You can take the ego out of the equation, just say, give me enough time and I'm going to figure this out. Again, how long did it take me to get well? 10 years. That's ridiculous, right? Nobody should take 10 years to get well. But this was pre-internet. This was pre-virtual consultations. This was in the late 90s to early 2000s. And we just didn't have everything we have now. And couldn't just contact anybody, couldn't find all this information out, right? So, but now, again, consistent effort over time. But even not being proficient, I still got well, all right? I still overcame autoimmune diseases, Addison's disease, POTS, myalgic encephalomyelitis, insomnia, allergies, all sorts of gut issues. I still overcame it. Did it take a long time? Sure, it did. And I didn't even have a lot of information, but I still did it. And you can too. The last one and the fifth one is this: be present. Be present, because a lot of times we're in our own little world, walking around, and we're kind of making things up as we go, right? We're just like, we're not actually being honest all of the time. What we need to do is just say, hey, what's going on right now? Where am I right now? Am I focused? Am I staying consistent? Am I using positive self-talk? Am I actually managing my schedule, right? Stay present. And it's not to scold yourself. It's not to talk down on yourself. Just say, listen, am I doing the things actually deserving of achieving my goal? Because a lot of people set goals, and I talk to them, and I'm like, okay, well, what'd you do today? Oh, I didn't get to it today. Oh, what'd you do yesterday? Yesterday wasn't a good day either. Okay, well, how about the day before? Yeah, this week hasn't been good. Oh, okay, I get it. I understand. We all have busy lives. We've got schooling. We've got family. We've got kids. We've got all sorts of different things going on. I get it. I understand that. But you can't take that much time off from achieving something that's very important to you, right? Because if you do, you're basically telling yourself, your subconscious in the world, well, if I achieve it, great. But if I don't, okay. So I want you to decide, how important are your goals to you? And if they're important, well, you're going to focus then on these 5 major life skills. And you're going to use this last one of being present to check in with yourself during the day. And if you're like me, you can set 3 alarms in your phone, which they say, check in. Listen, I'm not perfect. And I'm not saying that really anybody else is. We sometimes put people on these pedestals like they're perfect. No, I've got alarms that say check in. I've got another alarm at the end of the day says, that's it. Like, that's it. You got done whatever you can get done in a day. And now it's time to go home, see your family, be present with them, enjoy this time with them. And that's it. So what I want you to do is not overcomplicate your life. I talk to people all the time. They overcomplicate what actually needs to get done in order to be successful, right? They're doing too much in one day and not a little bit every day. A little bit every day, 360 days of the year, that is what's going to get you towards your goal. So hopefully today's podcast was helpful. Thank you so much, of course, for your support, for listening in. And if this has been helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk with you tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me here today on the show. Once again, I truly appreciate you. And as a valued listener, I wanted you to be the first to know we are debuting a brand new item. This is an everyday item that's going to be great for either one of your kids going back to school or yourself getting back into the work routine. And it is a cooler bag. So it's an eco cooler bag that you're able to take with you, bring a smoothie to work, keep it cold, bring your lunch to work. You can keep it cold. Same for your kids. It has multiple pockets. It's easy to carry around. It's lightweight. It's absolutely perfect for back to that fall routine schedule. And it's yours completely free. This is around $25 value. Yours completely free right now on all qualifying orders over at equi.life. That's eco.life. And you can pick out your favorite protocol, your favorite lab, your favorite nutritional supplements, whatever you've been looking to pick up and purchase. And right now, get a free cooler bag shipped to you completely free on all qualifying orders. I hope you enjoy it. Take some photos, tag us on social, and we'd love to see it. Take care, everyone.